Every morning when I get out of bed, the first thing that comes to mind is the kidnapping. It's always there. It never goes away.
Die geht nie weg.
2 years ago, a young Swiss couple, both members of the Bern police force, were making their way from Europe to India in a converted van. All was going well until the return trip through Pakistan, where they were kidnapped. On dangerous passages, they were almost always escorted by the local police or the military, but during the short time they were unguarded, they were overtaken by a Taliban commando. Later, they were harshly criticised for taking such risks.
We assessed the risks involved, and the probability of a traffic accident, an attack or some other crime was higher than the risk of kidnapping, which was smaller in comparison. We just fell into it.
The kidnapping victims feared for their lives from day one. They were moved 500 kilometres north to Waziristan, the tribal area of Pakistan's Taliban. Infinitely long days turned into endless months.
Taliban Pakistan hält uns jetzt seit über 2,5 Monaten hier fest am unbekannten Ort.
David Och grew ill with malaria. The kidnappers took care of him and his girlfriend, but just enough to make sure their precious commodity was not damaged. They demanded $50 million for the couple's freedom.
It will be possible that we will die.
Not a day went by when I didn't think we wouldn't come out alive. They kept repeating that if the money didn't come or the prisoners in Guantanamo weren't released, we would die.
In this hopeless situation, they were at least allowed to keep a journal. Despite the language barrier, they managed to communicate with their captors. They were held right in the combat zone between the Pakistani army and the Taliban, so US drone attacks also posed a major threat to their lives.
You cannot do anything. You're helpless. You just have to endure it. Some nights we were just waiting for our death.
Then at some point they saw a chance to escape. The guard on duty was less strict, and they weighed the risk of such a move.
Initially we had 5 armed men guarding us, plus 2 local residents, so let's say 7, in an inner and an outer security ring. The flight would have been a stupid risk. Then we started planning and realised that it was realistic. It was a big risk, but we could try.
It was awful. Your body is no longer in control. You're shaking. Your heart is racing. After we decided to go, we stopped talking to each other. Finally, we could do something. We'd been just waiting to die for 6,300 hours. Now we could try to free ourselves.
They left during a pitch-black night and made it to a Pakistani army checkpoint. A military helicopter flew them out of their misery. But back in Switzerland, their happiness was suddenly marred by people who didn't believe the story of their escape. People thought they were let go after a ransom was paid. Soon they realised they couldn't go back to their old lives. He left his job as a policeman to work with the disabled. She went back to school.
The confrontation with the public still gives me a stomachache.
It's actually also kind of fun. I'm very happy to finally show our version of the story with our book, being able to present our point and not just be helpless again, as when we were captive.
Unsere Seite geben und unseren Standpunkt können vertreten durch das Buch.